Hi, welcome back to the channel. I'm going to be working on a simple circuit to basically notify the shop when this compressor is due for an oil change. Since it sits in this little shed, kind of gets overlooked, and I was going to be using an auxiliary contact off of this starter, which the starter does not have one, and there's not one available, so I'm going to be using a current sensing switch off of one of the 3 phases to trigger the timer when it is in fact running. So I'll be building that out and we'll get it installed. So this is everything we're going to be needing. Here's the timer. As you can see, there's no preset button, so you have to integrate a couple toggles, momentary toggles, to set the preset. This will be the reset button for the timer once the oil has been changed. And instead of sending the output directly from the timer to the light, I'm just going to use a relay. Basically, the timer will energize the relay, and the relay will trigger the light. Typically I like to oversize my enclosures, but in this case there was one sitting on the shelf, so we're going to try and cram everything in here, which I don't recommend and typically do, but again, it was on the shelf and didn't want to let it go to waste. Mounted this just a tad too high, so I'm going to trim this little plastic piece off. That way it'll close. Just going to add a little 5 amp breaker for circuit protection. I knew it was going to be tight. I typically wouldn't use such a small enclosure, but it fits. Now I just got to wire in the current switch and mount this up. And so typically for this project, I would like to use the auxiliary contacts off of the contactor to trigger the timer for the compressor. But in this case, we do not have auxiliary contacts, and there's not even a spot for them. So what I'm going to be using is this Eaton current relay. So basically I'm going to put this on one of the legs, and every time the compressor comes on, this will pick up the current. So this will be triggering my timer to start and stop when the compressor comes on and off, since the auxiliary contacts are not an option in this particular scenario. I would not recommend using such a small panel, but I had plenty of extra, so made it work. That's the final project. Thanks for watching.